2026 Early Connections Conference, Action, presented by the Van Sloan Foundation. The title of this presentation is Partnering for Progress, Collaboration in AAC.
Anyway, thank you for joining. My name is Neha Sharma. I'm a speech and language pathologist by trade. Right now, I'm a supervising practitioner for our related service providers over in the deafblind school. And today we're going to be talking about augmentative and alternative communication and the partnering process, because it is not an individual event, it is a team sport. So we'll be talking about the processes of what we look for when we're deciding communication systems and how everyone on the team is involved in that process. So hopefully today we will learn the roles of our team members, their unique perspectives in helping to come up with a communication system, and then the ongoing implementation and support for our students. We are going to be geared more towards our deaf-blind individuals with that dual sensory loss. However, this sort of framework really applies to anybody with these communication needs. And then hopefully we'll walk away with a couple tools for you all to just go back and try right away to begin that teamwork, and also gain an understanding of the different types of systems that are out there. Hopefully you'll have some questions, comments. Please at any moment interrupt, and we can definitely address those in a moment. Okay, so what is AAC? So it is an acronym. It stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And pictured here, we have a few different tools that people use for their systems. We can have actual object systems that are either the whole object or a partial object. Those are mounted on those black backgrounds up there. We have devices that actually can have a picture or a part of an item on it that when you push it, it actually speaks the item name. We have high-tech devices. I'm sure you've all seen some iPads and some eye gaze systems like that. And then we have picture communication as well. And that way you can also have many different types of icons: drawings, line drawings, photographs, etc. So augmentative really refers to someone's something in addition to the oral speech. So they have our oral speech, but they might need something else to kind of supplement and support that. Alternative means instead of the verbal or oral speech. So that might mean they are nonverbal, they do not have the ability to use their voice, and they need something that is completely different to help support their communication. And if you kind of think about it, we all use augmentative communication. We have facial expressions, we have hand gestures, we text, we have email, right? So those are all sort of parts of augmentative communication that we use every day. So our students can also have access to that as well. So up here we have a list of all the different types of communication supports. There's probably more that's not listed up there that we don't think about. But a few things, especially for our deaf-blind individuals, is sign language, gestures, body language, body movements, and then we have some of those light to high-tech systems. We'll go through those as we go along. This slide has an image. It is a continuum of the AAC systems from no technology all the way up to high technology. So no technology means you don't need anything else. You can use what you have on your body. So verbal speech, signs, sign languages, body languages, gestures, and then underneath I have some images of what that might look like. Light tech, that's not usually battery operated or electronic. So you have things like whole objects that you might use as a symbol, your photographs, your picture symbols, text or braille is considered light tech as well. And then we have mid-tech, which is a little more sophisticated. Usually there's some batteries or some plug-in options for that, and those tend to have some sort of voice output. So you can record messages, single words, full sentences. And then those are really customizable, which is really nice. So you can individualize that for your student based on their needs. And then, of course, we go all the way up to high tech, and that is where we have these more dynamic electronic devices. iPads, eye gaze systems, some of these text-to-speech systems that we use, or speech-to-text, either way. So there's really a huge range, and it can get very overwhelming to try to figure out what is going to be best for our students. So that's where we come in with the process. How do we figure out what is going to be the most effective? First and foremost, it's very flexible. So the process itself is flexible, and then the actual use and implementation of the device is very flexible. So we usually start with observations. What are we noticing about our students? What are they gravitating towards? What do they like and not like? And then we're going to do an evaluation, some sort of formal assessment, which actually involves trials. We're going to try different things. What type of photo or picture, what type of hand gestures or movements can they actually volitionally use? Switches, iPads, all of those things we're going to try and figure out. And then, of course, there's the implementation. Then we're going to program it to make sure it has meaningful and functional vocabulary. And then we're going to watch them use it. How are they using it? What barriers do we see with them? And then how can we troubleshoot that? Of course, that's a data collection process. We want to make sure we're covering our bases, making sure we understand exactly what's happening so we can make our tweaks the same and appropriate for our students. And then, of course, consult, training, modeling, and that's a whole team approach as well. So what are we looking for when we're doing these observations and assessments and conversations with others? We're looking for the individual's access. What can they do independently? And what are they motivated to do? What do they really have interest in that they're going to use this system? We do not want to put all this time and effort into a system that they don't care about, because then they won't use it. That buy-in is really important. So I do want to iterate that it takes a very long time, so be patient. But in the end, you'll see it was all worth it. We also look at portability. How easy is it for them to carry it around? Whole objects are great. It is very concrete. They can use that. They understand it. But is it realistic that they're going to carry around 3 suitcases with them everywhere they go for all the things they need to communicate? Probably not. So we will be working to look at seeing how we can shape it, how we can make sure it's portable and accessible. We want to look at their own handling skills. Can they use it? Can they hold it? Can they grab it and give it? Can they put it on something? Can they pull it off? Can they touch the pictures? If they have an iPad, are they able to orient it the right way? Do they have it in front of them? Those are the things we want to make sure that they can have that own autonomy for themselves as well. Of course, efficiency. What is going to be quick? What is going to be most meaningful and less frustrating? If it's a cumbersome system, they're not going to want to use it. They're going to have abandonment, and we're back at square one. Again, that all goes to independent use. We want them to feel motivated and empowered to use it themselves. We can have our own ideas, we can have our models, we can help support them, but if they need someone every single time, it's not the most efficient system. And the individual's behavior. We want to make sure that we're giving them something that is safe. If they have self-injurious behaviors, a high-tech, hard iPad is probably not going to be the best, where they can hurt themselves or that it breaks and then we have to replace it. So thinking about that, what are they mouthing or not mouthing, right? And then symbol type. What is the exact symbol are we using? Are they using whole objects, partial objects, photos, line drawings, text, braille, all of those things. So there's a lot that goes into the process. And like I said, can't do it alone. So here are some things that we look at for the actual symbol selection. It really boils down to the access that they have and the modality that is going to be the most important for them. So there's a lot, and this image up here kind of shows a very collaborative effort here. We looked at a bunch of team members to decide how to create a high-tech system, but we have real photos, we have colored outlines on a black background, and that was helping the student identify, each individual item, and also some of those words like more and finished is different than actual objects that he can interact with. So we looked at the audio, visual, and tactile senses and what kind of combination we needed for the student. We looked at preferences, type of icon. Again, we realized real photos was best for this individual. The size, this was as big as we could go. I mean, as small as we could go, sorry. So thinking about that, an array of only 5 icons per page, there's a lot of navigation, page after page after page to increase the vocabulary. So again, something we thought about for that. We have this color coding system. We had a lighting need, so the whole iPad was backlit. So it was on its brightest level, even with the black background. Amplification needs for that hearing loss. We actually had a speaker, a Bluetooth speaker that was tied to this so that as the iPad had volume, it wasn't loud enough. We had to amplify that even more. So we had a speaker attached to that. Again, portability. It's an iPad, so we had a carrying case for it with a strap. Individual could carry it around with them. The positioning, the layout of the pictures, the way that it was positioned on the desk, slanted or mounted. Again, we looked at that. The array of symbols, which we talked about. And again, the page after page is that navigation. So like if he hit more, it would go to a different page of other items. So he had to really kind of keep in mind, okay, these are the ones on this page. There's other ones on other pages. So we had to look at that as well. And then again, the vocabulary selection. Are we using single words? Is one icon displaying or conveying a whole message? Depending on our students' cognitive and memory needs, we might have to look at that as well. So that top right, the slinky, it could mean slinky. It could mean I want the slinky. It could mean my turn with the slinky. It could also mean the slinky is fun, right? So those are the things we have to think about when we're creating all of these systems. So this is a chart on this slide about the communications systems ranging from the light tech to high tech and some of the benefits and drawbacks of each one. So this, I think, will be in the handout available. But just so you know, while some systems seem really great, there are some drawbacks, and it's going to be an individualized process. For example, like I said, whole objects are great, very concrete, very easy for the individual to understand the communication symbol of it. It's very tangible. There's no technical difficulties that we have to troubleshoot, but it's not really portable. It's very hard to get a robust language because now you're stuck with nouns only. And it's just hard to manage a lot of those. So then you go to, let's say, a mid-tech where you have some switches or some voice output devices. It's tangible, it's great, it has some voice output. You can have pictures or tangible symbols on there, so it has some of that flexibility. But again, it's hard to manage. It still limits your vocabulary. Sometimes setup can be pretty complex. So those are the things that we have to think about as we go through what system is best. So like I said, can't do it alone. We really need to collaborate together. So why? Because our students' independent communication is our goal. That's our shared goal for everybody. Communication is everywhere. And as a speech and language pathologist, I can say that I will own communication. However, I can teach, or I support students in learning the language, the intricacies of that, but I don't know what they do on a day-to-day basis. I don't know what their motor abilities are in order to decide what system is best. So really, I can't do my job until everybody else has a piece of that. So our students' teams are very large, which is a great thing. There are so many professionals involved in our student teams, but it can get overwhelming for parents, for individual team members, but we do need to work together. We should be having that shared goal and those shared, do you have a question? No? Okay. We should have those shared goals and those pieces of information to help build the system because we want consistency across the board. Wherever the student goes, we want to make sure that they have the same access and they're being taught the same way. Generalization. We want them to do the skills with me, with you in your session, with you in the classroom, with the parents at home, and then that way, we have like a very solid foundation, so we prevent those splinter skills. So that's why every team member should be involved. So this next slide is about all the team members and what they contribute to the AAC system creation process. So the individual themselves, we need to know their likes, their dislikes, right? We need to know what their access is. That's where we start. We start with an individual. What are their motivations and interests? And then we have to tap into families and friends. We have to understand that what is their vocabulary needs when they're with them? What are the contexts that they're going to be using this communication system with them outside in the community with their family and friends? And then, of course, the SLP, speech language pathologist, language development, they're part of that system selection. There's so much out there, so we can help kind of hone in on what's going to be a good direction to go in. And then, of course, programming it. We're very well versed in that as well. The occupational therapist is, again, very important because they have a very good sense of the student's sensory system. What do they like to touch? What do they not like to touch? Am I going to pick a system that has a lot of tactile feedback if they're not able to process that? What is their selection method? Can they isolate a finger? Can they use it to point or press? Or are they going to grab something in like the whole item itself? That's the occupational therapist contribution. The physical therapist and orientation mobility specialist are going to be really important for, of course, movement around their community and in their environments. Our physical therapists also help with their strength, their postural strength, their positioning of themselves in relationship to their materials. So where should this system live in their desk space or around them so that they can still access it with their motor skills, but then also be able to manipulate other things as well. They also help with mounting their systems on whatever travel devices they have, like wheelchairs and activity chairs or their regular desk chair. And they help us understand what can they actually have with them as they're walking for balance and strength. So we want to make sure we take all of that into consideration as well. And then, of course, the classroom teacher, again, vocabulary, they have a really good sense of what this student or this individual needs to know in the moment. So we want to capitalize on them about what are they teaching in the classroom? What does the student need access to? And then we're going to work together on that. And then, of course, your teacher of the visually impaired, your teacher of the deaf of hard of hearing, and the audiologist. They are very instrumental in helping us choose what type of symbol and what type of system. So our TVIs are going to do a lot of assessments around icon type, size, color preferences, the array. I will not ever recommend an array of 25 plus icons on a single page with a student with a vision loss, right? So we want to make sure, what can they see? What is the smallest that they can see that they don't have visual fatigue? Because if they're tired, then they're going to abandon it. Same with the teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing and audiologist. We want to make sure that they can hear it. We want to make sure we have their amplification systems all into place. Is it Bluetooth directly to their hearing device? Is it just a loudspeaker? You know, all of those things are really important. And then, of course, others, anybody in the community, any other team member, medical professionals too, we want to make sure we're including them in the process, again, around vocabulary and making sure we understand where the student is going to be using these systems. Yeah, sure, sounds great, right? Everybody has a caseload of 1, and everybody has the same exact ideas, and everybody's working together great, and it's going to be perfect. Yeah, how are we going to do this? It sounds great, but there are some barriers, but let's talk about some solutions. So the first challenge is, again, yeah, sounds great, but how do we even start? So what you want to do is focus on the individual. Start with what's motivating. Start with what they have interest in and build off of that. You're going to figure out things that they are going to want to talk about. And that's where we start. Yeah, so the student won't use it with me, but they'll use it with the speech path. Yep, that happens a lot. But what we want to do is have these common goals that we're sharing amongst our team members. Why is she using it with you? What prompts, what strategies are you doing that I can also incorporate in my sessions? Have those open conversations. Sometimes data collection sheets can travel, take little notes, have a shared document, those types of things can help. Yeah, this is great. We have an abundance of resources, so no problem. No, always, right? We don't have high-tech systems. We don't have a variety to try, and we don't have money to buy them. 100% true. So there are lending libraries out there. There are places where you can ask to borrow systems. You can also make them yourself. Take a couple pictures, print them out, stick them onto something, or take objects. Sometimes when toys break, we love when toys break because then we take them and cut them up in all the different pieces and we've created some symbols that way. Also, check with your SLP because they do have companies that will lend out trials of systems of different devices. So money is always a barrier, but there are ways to work around it. Augmentative and alternative communications are too overwhelming for our students. Yes, if you don't go through the process, if you pick things that are not at their level and not meaningful to them, which is why we go through that whole process and why we take our time. There's a lot of trial and error. We're going to try something, we're going to figure out it doesn't work, and then we're going to try it again, something different. So give yourself that grace as well, that whatever you try first doesn't have to be the forever system. It actually shouldn't be the forever system. You want it to grow as they grow. I'm not comfortable, or I don't know how it should go, and I don't know what to do, and this is not my area of expertise. Sure, everybody is going to be a part of it together. You're going to have a team lead that will help you with the whole selection process. Usually it's your speech path, but you're going to have regular team meetings. Meet together, meet every once in a while, have shared documents, collect data together. Having those open conversations will really help everybody have that sort of drive and motivation themselves to instill that into their students. And there's no time. There's no time for all these meetings and collaborations. And that is true because nobody has a caseload of one. Anyway, what we can do is just set a structured time. Usually at the beginning of the year, when you're creating your schedules, is the best time to do it. However, if you can find 10 to 15 minutes weekly, every other week, quick check-in, it doesn't have to be an in-person meeting. It could be a quick email that everyone's on. Hey, this is what I tried today. What are you noticing? Something that keeps that conversation going will be really helpful. One of the things we do in our program is we have actually set times for team meetings. Every Monday, Tuesday afternoon, our staff know that that is a time for team meetings. It's there if you need it. If you don't need it, that's great. But at least it's there, and no other large team meetings should be scheduled at that time. So team members can call a meeting if they need to. So something like that, even if it's not used every day or every single time, just to have it in the calendar makes you feel like, okay, I can check in. Knowing that that's a time where I can call that parent. I can schedule a video call and we can go through some training. Something like that will be good. So then how do you get started? Pick manageable times, which we talked about. And this is something that you might need a longer team meeting to start with. Get as many people you can together and go through these questions. How long should our regular meetings be? How often are we making this meeting happen? Is it really reasonable? Is it monthly? Is it every other month? And then you're going to establish a common goal. everyone on the team member should have a goal, which is to support the student. But it doesn't have to be this lofty goal. It could be, listen, until the next meeting, I'm going to try this one strategy, and everyone's going to do it in their setting and then report back. Clearly define your team roles. Who is bringing what to the table? And that could be this week, the OT is going to say, listen, we are working on isolating that finger. So if you can just focus on that for this week, that'd be great. Get back to us. And then maybe down the road, we can pick a system that needs that isolated finger. Again, you're going to pick 1 to 2 topics to discuss. What's most important at that moment? It doesn't have to be everything. It shouldn't be everything. It's going to be overwhelming, and then people will abandon it. So pick something that you want to talk about, and it can also last multiple meetings. Our students take a very long time to learn and integrate things, so give them that time and give yourself that time as well. And then have those clear action steps. What are we looking for at the next meeting? Let's follow up. What's our next step? All right, looks like we're done. Question and answers, everybody, yes?
I always had a question with the AAC devices on which app you guys use, like say, touch chat versus another one. Is there, I know enough that there's like different options for it as far as different ability to change colors and,
yes,
and all of that, sizes. But is there a cost difference as well?
Yeah, so the question was, yes, the question was, how do we know what apps to use? There's a lot of different features and a lot of different apps, and is there a cost difference? Yes, there is. There's free ones out there that don't do too much. You can pay for certain ones. On the apps for the iPad, there are apps that will allow you to enlarge an icon when you touch it. So visually, that's very accessible. It also has a haptics feature so that when you do touch it, it vibrates the iPad so people know that that's what they've selected.
What has that?
That's touch chat. Yes. Go Talk, which is another one that we use often, has a very cool feature where you can disable half of the cell. And if you touch that half, it doesn't do anything, but if you touch the other half, it selects. So we are able to kind of bridge a tactile communication system to something like this, where you put it in this is what I did, in one of those sheet protectors, and I have like the little mini tactile symbol on one side so they can feel it, move over, touch the cell, and it will activate. But that's only in Go Talk. So again, there are different features in different apps, so working with your team will figure out what features are going to be the most beneficial. Yeah.
I think what you just described is a ideal, well-functioning team.
Totally.
And my son's in public school, and I've seen that things are quite siloed, and I don't know who is the lead or who is the decision maker on these things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that is a big problem, especially in public school systems where caseloads are large, classrooms are large. I would start with the case manager or the liaison, whoever is kind of working with getting the IEP meetings together and those types of things. There's usually the point people to kind of get the team together. And as a parent, you have all the right to have requests for meetings anytime you want. Please don't wait for an annual. Take advantage of, hey, I'd love to get the team together, and I really just want speech and OT, or speech, OT, and classroom teacher, right? You don't have to have the whole team, but I would start there and then start saying, listen, I would like regular meetings, and I would like meeting notes and agenda notes after every meeting to hold that team accountable. Again, just like this morning's lecture, advocacy is not confrontation, right? So as a parent, that is your job, and I would highly, highly recommend to say, it's for my student, it's for me, so I can carry over regular team meetings, and I'd love updates regularly. Yep.
Hi, I'm a speech therapist at
Excellent.
Western Pennsylvania School for Blind Children in Pittsburgh. I would say 80% of my caseload uses unaided communication methods like smiling, reaching out, a few more on mid-tech devices, and then very few on high-tech devices. I used to be in autistic support where like 99% of my caseload was on high-tech. I've seen a lot of just a decline in mid-tech devices. So we used to use Tech Talks. My students' Tech Talk broke. I reached out to my supervisor to get a new one, and they said that that company is no longer making them. I feel like mid-tech is disappearing, and it's just going from like they're either on unaided or object symbols, then a big jump to high-tech. Do you see that? Is that the direction things are moving? How do you know when a student, I have so many students who are either just kind of doing like a one-hit switch, who I want to move on to something different. But I guess, yeah, I have students who, I don't know, is it okay to skip mid-tech?
So yes, I've seen that happen a lot. There is a huge push for iPads.
Yes.
And the reason is because it's more socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for the parents to manage,
Mm-hmm.
and kids like iPads, right?
Yeah.
So there is a push for that. I think there are certain mid-tech items that are better or more appropriate than others. The mid-tech is a nice bridge from light tech to high tech, like the Go Talk now, where you can, actually affix the tactile symbol to it and have it voice output. I think that's a great bridge. Switches are being used more for cause and effect. It's really hard to move from switch to something more communicatively robust. And so I think people are seeing that more and they're abandoning it a little bit because they just don't know how to use it. We use switches more for like gaining attention. Hey, come over here. And then I'm using a different communication method to have an actual conversation with you. I don't have a great answer, but I have seen that a lot. And unfortunately, we have to be a little more creative.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, of course.
What does your, like a typical, I know it's different for every student, but like you want to put a student on high-tech AAC, what does your assessment look like? So ours, we just kind of moved towards this like new assessment process. And I think the form and the framework came from a school in Texas, I forget which one. And it's kind of, it's pretty lengthy. It's a lot of paperwork that we have to fill out, and we have to try 3 things. I want to say 2 weeks for each thing at least. Do you usually, I don't know, what's your, yes, tell me about what an assessment looks like, I guess.
Sure. So we don't do formal AAC assessments here. It's more trial and error. We are fortunate that we do have a lot of devices here that we can kind of just try. And our philosophy is more like, we're going to try it in the classroom. We're going to try it with OT. We're going to try it with PT. We're going to try it everywhere to see what it looks like, ideally. But the reason why it's so prescripted that way is so that you can actually get insurance funding.
Mm-hmm.
So insurances are always looking for a formal assessment with all the paperwork, with actual, like, you've tried this device this many times, this one this many times, right? So they're looking for that for funding. Unfortunately, it comes down to money,
Yes.
right? Our philosophy here is more of, let's try it, see what they do, see what they like. We always then say to the families, look, we're going to try this. If you'd like to invest in it, it's up to you, of course. But our projection or our trajectory would be like this, then this, then this. It's hard to predict. Again, our assessments are not super formal here. Our students here often go to the Children's Hospital in Boston, to their clinic, and get a formal assessment. I will say that when we do get those assessments and those recommendations, they're not quite hearing loss, vision loss friendly. So we end up looking at other things as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else?
There's some questions on chat.
Oh, sure.
I have 2 questions here. The first one is, hi, my name is Jamin, and I am the parent coordinator with the outreach department at Maryland School for the Blind. My daughter Cora has CVI and is enrolled in 1st grade at MSB. We just started our journey with AAC devices as Cora has started to have integrated use of eye gaze in her classroom. Are these tutorials or courses you recommend to parents like us who are at the beginning of their AAC journey?
I would say yes. Whatever information you can get and however you can get those strategies or even direction in where to go next or who to ask next, yes, please do that. Eye gaze is pretty intricate. So that we would say to go for an actual eye gaze assessment at these outside clinics, Children's or any of the other outside clinics that provide that. But I think as parents, it's really important to be informed before you go to those appointments so that you can kind of understand what they're saying, but also ask questions that are going to meet your needs.
Thank you. And the next question I have is from Michelle. She said, as an SLP, I'm finding that I'm often using a partner-assisted scanning approach with switches for yes and no. It's hard to get going with it. And she'd like to know your thoughts on this approach, again, as a bridge to move towards switch scanning on a device in the future.
Yes, our students do need a lot of partner-assisted scanning at first. Sorry, is the question more about like how to move from that?
I believe so, as a bridge to move towards switch scanning.
Okay. We've done that in the past. We've definitely had students working on switch scanning, one switch to scan and another switch to actually select based on auditory feedback. And it does start with partner-assisted scanning, but I think it's a process where you do have to kind of be the bridge, like yourself as the partner. You will give them that auditory feedback, but then sometimes it's okay to move to an iPad or a voice output that is doing that auditory so that you're not the one scanning or giving that auditory feedback for the scan. It's the actual device and you're there for support. So there's no real sort of plan to bridge that. It's kind of what is the student going to be most receptive to and what your resources are as well. Great. Anything else? Well, I will not keep you because I think it's lunchtime. So have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you for attending the 2026 Early Connections Conference. Action. Scan the QR code in the center of the screen for more sessions.